apart.
Hey there, Stephen King fans! Welcome to the channel. In today's video, we're talking about the first reactions to Carrie. Let's take a look. Yes! I knew Flanagan wouldn't let us down. The first teaser to Carrie dropped sometime back, and it gave us a clear idea that Flanagan would be adapting Stephen King's 1974 novel Carrie, and keep the major beats the same, while giving it a modern twist. Now, as much as I trust Flanagan, I still had my fingers crossed. Finally, the first reactions of Carrie are in, and I'm glad to say that the director is ready to make our Halloween better. Those who got access to the early screening of the miniseries from Prime Video are showering it with praise, and let's check out what we're in for. Pretty similar to the 1976 film, Flanagan's miniseries also revolves around a teenager from high school whose overprotective and kind of abusive mother kept her in strict isolation due to her religious values. However, Carrie's life changes overnight as she starts menstruating and discovers that she has psychic powers. The official logline of the series, according to Prime Video, reads as, "The series is a bold and timely reimagining of the story of misfit high schooler Carrie White, who has spent her life in seclusion with her domineering mother. After her father's sudden and untimely death, Carrie finds herself contending with the alien landscape of public high school, a bullying scandal that shatters her community, and the emergence of mysterious telekinetic powers." Now, when I first got the update about Flanagan working on a Carrie project, I wanted one plot point to remain the same, or at least get a place in this show, and that was the infamous prom scene. And it did. Yes, we all saw the glimpse of the teens dancing. However, Flanagan noted that we're getting there in a completely different way, and the events of that prom are going to be very different. That's a wonderfully delicious and irresistible opportunity for someone who loves adapting things. Summer H. Howell seems to be doing a great job at portraying the titular character, and Bill Bria from Slash Film said, "Summer H. Howell is heartbreakingly great as Carrie. Relevant, reverent, and surprising." She also said that only the first 2 episodes were released for the test screening, and that any doubts I might have had vanished in just a few minutes. Mike Flanagan is working his adaptation magic once again. Can't wait for the rest. And Howell, who recently starred in Brandon Christensen's 2025 slasher, Night of the Reaper, has put a lot of work in realizing Flanagan's vision of the protagonist and had to act out 4 scenes in an hour-long call, after which she got the role. Howell recalled how she had a feeling she'd get the role and said, "I remember this one week after doing another tape, I was like, something's gonna happen. I started getting deja vu. I started telling my family and friends, like, I don't know, I think they're gonna want to talk to me." For someone who literally manifested the role, it's not surprising to see the 22-year-old actress thriving as Carrie and getting overwhelmingly positive responses. But what about the doubts we had about Flanagan taking a different path to depict this version of Carrie? You know, bringing in new technology, social media, real reports of crime, and most importantly, the changing nature of bullying, where cyber attacks have now become common. And Flanagan did confirm that he will be tweaking King's novel and explained that he would be taking a more nuanced approach in the depiction of Carrie's mother, who's being played by Samantha Sloyan, a familiar face in Flanagan's work, including The Haunting of Hill House, Midnight Mass, The Fall of the House of Usher, and The Midnight Club on Netflix. Flanagan told Entertainment Weekly, "I went into this determined not to hate Margaret White." Flanagan notes of writing the role, "I wanted to understand her, and part of the importance of this is Margaret's not entirely wrong. There's a lot she has to say in the show that I agree with, and that makes it even more complicated." In the same interview, Sloyan said, "When I read how this Margaret exists in the world, I was really excited. She loves Carrie more than anything in the world, but like many family members, we're bound to each other, but we don't actually see the world the same way. She loves Carrie, but she doesn't understand Carrie." He also plans to expand Carrie's dad's role and give him a different story, and turns out, he did exactly as planned. Discussing films, Tyler Tang called Flanagan's Carrie a big departure for both King's novel and Flanagan's reputation as the keymaster of King's stories. He continued, "It's a true modernization focusing on teen anxieties and the cycle of violence in our digital age." Flanagan is aware many people hold this story near and dear to their hearts, but I find this motivation to peer at today's issues through the lens of these characters really compelling, even if these choices might be controversial. I'm definitely seated for the rest. Sometimes new is good, right? Seems like Flanagan's Carrie will convince us of that. Moreover, he has a pretty good success streak when it comes to handling Stephen King stories. I mean, the man made Gerald's Game into a film which currently has over 90% on Rotten Tomatoes, and that novel was once thought to be unfilmable. And Carrie 2 seems to be following those footsteps. Tessa Smith, a critic from Mama's Geeky 2, praised Summer's performance and said, "All I can say is wow, this is not at all what you're expecting. It's absolutely incredible, and I'm dying for the rest of the episodes." Summer H. Howell is phenomenal, such a relevant exploration of this story. See, the thing is, Carrie actually has a whole lot of potential to be adjusted to the setting of the present day. The crux of the story is about an oppressed girl who gets constantly harassed by her peers, and one fine day, her patience breaks. Now this is where King added the pinch of supernatural powers, but in essence, Carrie has always been a relatable girl for many. Think about it. We've all known someone or the other who's had a miserable life under the pressure of their family and faith, and struggled to find a place for themselves. Unfortunately, more often than not, these teenagers end up being the ones who suffer even in the outside world, and the forced seclusion messes up their heads. With Flanagan's Carrie's trailer, it's been made clear that all the girl wanted was to get into a school. Why? To perceive the world as she wants to learn and unlearn things and make friends. Friends who would understand the life she lives and give her a shoulder to cry on. But poor Carrie got nothing but side eyes and ignorance. Thus, the onset of her periods coinciding with Carrie getting powers is way more than a mystical coincidence. The menarche marked the beginning of her new life both symbolically and biologically. Carrie was now on the brink of womanhood, capable of choosing a path for her own life and taking the reins from her obsessive mother. And if you think about it biologically, the massive hormonal change can also justify her reaching a boiling point and her rage turning into something powerful. It's possible that Flanagan will delve deeper into these physical and psychological aspects and connect that together, and we know for a fact how goddamn good the man is at expressing sensitive and complicated ideas. See, he already altered the prom scene according to reports, saying at the San Diego Comic-Con, Flanagan told USA Today that King looked at it as a burst of shocking high school violence. But the world today has seen much more brutal high school events, and that's kind of been normalized, especially in the United States. And though we knew this, deep down we did fear what the iconic character would do in the modern setting. But thanks to these early reviews, it looks like the contemporary recreation is working out well. And all the questions we had in our mind after watching the trailer can be put to rest now. But why did Flanagan choose Carrie and went above and beyond to recontextualize it? Fully aware of the risk that the audience might not be happy with him touching Brian De Palma's movie. And a piece of literature as iconic as Carrie, which has already been worked on a few times. But the 48-year-old filmmaker knew all these too well before he dipped his toes into the water. He said in an interview, "One of the things I'm the most sensitive to is when people change things. This would require an enormous amount of change and invention and recontextualization. But that's kind of why I wanted to do it." He further stated, "If we're going to tell the story of Carrie White in long form, how do we expand it?" He respects the previous versions of Carrie, but since there have been plenty of them, Flanagan made sure that he doesn't rehash the same formula. Instead, for him, this was never going to be a straight adaptation. The only way to approach it is to build something new out of the ingredients of Carrie. Otherwise, there's really no purpose in trying to retread ground that's already been so beautifully walked before. It's not like Carrie hasn't been recognized enough or didn't get a proper screen adaptation, yet Flanagan's attempt is extremely important. Why? Firstly, because he has a lot riding on the already established prestige of the IP and the responsibility of satisfying a huge fan base, both his and Stephen King's. And secondly, a successful reimagination from him can also prove how a decades-old novel and concept by the King of Horror still holds up today. The director has been vocal about his love for the author and has been quoted saying he's a rabid fan of him. In his own words, "I grew up on The Shining. It was one of the first horror movies I ever saw. It was formative in a profound way for me. I'm also a constant reader. I'm a lifelong King fanatic. He's my hero." Thus, remaking Carrie is as personal for him as any of us, who dozed off with a Stephen King novel in hand. It's almost like his tribute to the author, and an opportunity to once again show the world what a brilliant creative influence he's been. Anyway, I know that the first reactions always seem to be a little too glorious, and the wise thing to do is take them with a pinch of salt, but honestly, I don't think the Carrie miniseries is going to let us down, and all these reviews will make much more sense. Also, Prime Video seems confident enough about the series, given that they held an advanced premiere more than 2 months before its release. Alright guys, that's all we have for today. Carrie drops on October 7th, and I can't wait to see it for myself and get lost in Flanagan's magic all over again. Do let us know your thoughts in the comments below, and if you like this video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel. I'll see you in the next one.